Welcome to the Gate 7 International Podcast, your official English source for all things Olympiacos FC and Greek football.
The first day of training is when I realized, this is why they win the league every year.
When I spoke with Kevin, if I gonna sign or no for Olympiacos, he said, you are crazy, go direct, my friend.
Να πετύχω, ήθελα να μείνω στην ιστορία του Ολυμπιακού.
I can't speak, sure.
Yeah.
Έλα μαλάκα!
Σ' αγαπώ πάρα πολύ, Πειραιάς. Είμαι Γαύρος πάντα, όλοι μαζί.
Welcome everybody once again to another edition of Gate 7 International. I hope you guys enjoyed the new intro. I know we teased it on YouTube earlier this week so that you guys could take a look at it. Hope you like it. Put some clips together of some of our favorite pieces of the different Legends interviews. So hope you guys like it. New content always coming from Gate 7 International. And guys, if you haven't done so already, join the Gate 7 International mission. Help us connect all of the Olympiakos, the red and white fans across the world. Let's make this community the community that Olympiakos deserves. Costa, how are you doing today, buddy? We got a few things to get through, a little bit of a different type of show today. How are you feeling?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Good evening to everyone.
Well, boys and girls, like I said, we do have something a little bit different for you today. But before we get started, as always, a few housekeeping items. Ladies and gentlemen, Olympiacos DC, their semifinal match in the Stewart Cup, the Maryland Stewart Cup today was postponed. They were supposed to be playing against FC Inter-Atlantic, who lost to the champions of the entire national tournament. So they were supposed to play against them today. The field conditions, for those that aren't aware, we had some snow on the east coast of the United States, something called a bomb cyclone. I don't know what that means, but it sounds awful. I didn't go outside. It was windy. It was cold. They canceled the game. So we'll keep you guys updated with that. And like I brought up last week, the documentary is coming out. This will kick off the docu-series that we're starting with Olympiacos DC. We're excited to be working with them to produce this. And it's going to start with the Clash of the Academies that occurred back in January. So keep an eye on the space. I hope you guys like it. It is going to be very good. I've seen the early cuts, the final cuts coming out. It's going to be really, really, really dope. Now, like I said, we've got a fun show to you today. We got a post-match plus a little bit of a special transfer window. We're going to be discussing that. We'll get more into that later. But first and foremost, it's already been seen in the comments. People saying, I need eye drops. Lakis Gavalas. Yeah, buddy. We all do after that. It's a theme of this season. Costa, how'd you feel, buddy? How'd you feel about this game?
What can I say, man? More of the same, really. Yeah. Another win. It came the way that it has done many times this season. Set piece. Cisse is on the end of it. 1-0 just before half time. And then a penalty won by Cisse again, who, spoiler alert here, is my MVP of the season. It's not changing for when we do the awards later in the year. He's the only player on that team that deserves a move, like out of our foreign players. We talk about who's going to be the next big move away from Olympiacos, and he's the only one that deserves it. And it could have gone either way today. Aris could have just as easily snatched a draw, even a win. It could have gone either way, and I thought that we were somewhat lucky to go away with the win, but I'm, again, not surprised. It's just characteristic of how our season's gone. We didn't play well. It was difficult to watch. I agree, yeah. We've seen worse, actually. We have seen worse. Lucky, talking about eye drops, definitely seen worse games this season. But you know what? There is one thing I want to say before I, rant on too long. After the last game against Aris, where we lost in the regular season, it was reported that there was a meeting of the players in the dressing room. The players by themselves, and the captains spoke to everyone. Avram Papadopoulos spoke, Andreas Bouchalaki spoke, Mathieu Valbuena spoke, and they all said, the season's not over. we have to improve our performances. It's not good enough. Valbuenas even reported to have said the fact that we're having these conversations isn't good. Like, we need to stop talking and perform out on the field. And one of the things I thought watching today's game was, what the hell did they talk about when they had that meeting? Because it was same old, same old. No movement, no urgency. And even, there was this talk of Martins deciding that he would play his first string today, amidst a broader kind of discussion about the need for fresh blood, to bring in new players. He's taken a decision to play the experienced players, and that's what we've seen today.
Yep.
Well, those are some of my thoughts from today's game, just to kick us off.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100% there. And, when we saw the lineup, I think you had said it and you had tweeted it out that, I guess it's probably the best that we could expect, right? Given how the season had been. And yeah, besides Carvalho and besides Gary Rodriguez, I wasn't really, I wasn't super excited. As much as I don't like to give too much flack to Bouchalakis and Envila as the center mid pairing, I feel like we've talked about this so many times, these days, having 2 6s in the center mid like that, especially when neither one occupies that Guilherme role, it just doesn't do anything for our midfield. And we saw today, again, some of the issues that we've had all season, where here we have one midfielder that's sitting deep with possession of the ball. He's got the defenders behind him, and then everybody else is in a line up at the top of the field. It's a line of 5 or 6 players just sitting in a front line. Nobody coming back to get the ball. And we're just sitting here passing the ball backwards, slowly moving the ball around. That's not what you want to see. It's not attractive. In the meantime, when Aris is getting the ball and going forward, there's players sitting 2-3 together in a triangle, and they're playing 1-2 touch, quick pass and move football. There's no excuse for why Olympiacos can't do that. There's no excuse at all. And there's a lot of factors that are involved here. In this game today, we saw kind of more of the same. Our fullbacks just not doing good, just not good enough, Costa. They're just not good enough. And we say this a lot, like, we're not trying to knock on the effort at the very least that Oleg puts, but it's just not enough. It just isn't. And when we rely on our fullbacks to provide so much of that impetus going forward, it sucks. It really does suck. And then also we have to say our forwards today, from the wingers to El Arabi to the strikers, also just weren't good enough. It has to be said.
I agree, and there's lots that we can build on from what you said, Ari. And just picking up a comment from the chat, like is Gavalas again, something that we've talked about all season. Martin's game plan requires Oleg and Lala to do things that Alexander-Arnold and Robertson do for Liverpool, even though they cannot. He insists on the same plan. Yeah, that is one of the problems. In our private discussion during the game, I said I've had it with Oleg. As much as he's very, very decent, let's say, on the defensive side of things, he puts incredible effort in, and I think he's been run into the ground, like you've said many times this season, Ari. He's just not an Olympiacos fullback, and neither is Lala. But at least Oleg has heart. He plays with heart on the left-hand side. I don't see anything from Lala. It's like, I don't know what he's about. He's just a player that he gives nothing to me, like a sense of smell, like something, He just doesn't give me anything. And that's not the only problem though, Ari. I think many times we've seen this season that the ball does not go through the middle. And even when you've got a player like Carvalho is not... The difference between Carvalho and Fortunis is that Fortunis will get the ball and turn and then run at people. And he can play the pass as well and do the things that Carvalho does. But Carvalho doesn't seem to have that thing that Fortounis has, that driving through the middle with the ball, running at people. My point is, there's nothing connecting the back end of the team to the front. And Villa and Bouchalakis do the same thing practically. And then you see in the first half, Villa sitting in between Manolas and Cisse, and then que metato chaos, like you say in Greek. You can't connect the defense to the attack because Madi Camara's dead. Pardon me. Madi Camara is not playing how we've gotten used to him playing the last few seasons. We don't have that box-to-box number 8 that can carry the ball and do something, that creativity. And Martins doesn't think, apparently, that Aguibou Camara can play that role. He insists on throwing him onto the pitch on the wing, and then it's like, where is he playing? Is he playing on the wing? Is he playing behind the striker? Does he know what's his instruction? I have no idea. But for me, he needs to be playing that role, and he's not. So problems on the wing backs, problems in the middle. El Arabi, from the get-go, literally the first minute of the game, we build up. He gets the ball and he's got an easy pass to just spray it out to the wing, holds on to it too long, dispossessed. And it's like, okay, this is how today's going to go.
You just knew that was how it was going to be. And then it just kept happening. How about when he had the ball? It was it the 30th minute? He's coming down the left side. He gets the ball played to him. Masouras is right next to him. And Gary Rodriguez is across the penalty box on the other side. And he's wide open. He tries to rip the shot first, gets the ball back to him, then takes 2 steps too many before attempting to even try to cross it to Gary, and he gets closed down. Just it's one of those games. And this is what we talked about with El Arabi. He feels like a step behind where he was at least a season ago or 2 seasons ago. And this, I'm sorry, if this is the El Arabi that we're getting, he's not worth 2 million. He's not worth 2.5 million. Let him go to Qatar and make the money for the rest. You can't have this. It's just there's so much slow pace on this team. It's too slow. There is just too much slowness.
So somebody was making a really interesting point on Twitter that I agree with about Masouras, because the value of Masouras, beyond, of course, what we know that Masouras will get in on the far post, like he'll get goals, first touch, header, like tap-ins, like first touch finish, all those things that we know Masouras is good at. He's good at tracking back.
Yeah.
But Masouras' value was accentuated so much when he had Tsimikas, because Tsimikas could attack. And now that he has Oleg as his partner on the left, his value is less, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He can't offer the same things when he has a different fullback playing with him. And I think that's a really interesting point that we haven't really talked about so much. Can I just answer this real quick? Labro, if you're free, get on the show. Labro's asking, where is Fortounis, neither in B team or in the squad list? Apparently, Martins was going to take Fortounis with him to Thessaloniki for the last game of the regular season, but he got a knock in training. Yeah. So that's what I know about Fortounis. But yeah, I'm still think we need to ease him back. When he's fit, he'll play, and I can't wait to see him back in the first team.
Likewise, and we've been talking about a lot of the negatives, but I did, before we jump in, because there's a lot of comments rolling in too, there is a positive I did want to look at, and it's something that I don't think that we have enough of in this team right now, and it's some of that positional awareness, or the awareness of where their teammates are. Joao Carvalho, despite the fact that he's he is slower, he doesn't have a lot of agility to him, and I admit that. And maybe he can't take on as many people one-on-one like Fortuny. But how many times today he had these gorgeous one-touch balls, whether they were through, cutting a defender. He knows where the players are on his team, and he makes it look so easy. Hell, I don't think Masouras was ready half the time when the ball was played to him. I don't think he expected it. I think he was expecting him to take a touch or that he could even thread some of those balls through. The one I'm thinking of is when Carvalho was on the left side and Masouras is next to him. There's two defenders, and Carvalho just outside of the foot threads that needle. I don't think Masouras expected that. We haven't had anybody like that this season. You know, players that I could think of that were like that all the time, Guilherme. Madi used to be like that even last season. Madi would get the ball sometimes and play it downfield. You were like, I didn't even realize there was a guy running or open, but we haven't seen that. So we have a lot of players that just don't seem to have that positional awareness. And maybe it's the lack of off-ball movement that is leading to that. But Carvalho has this in spades. And look how the game opens up around him when you have somebody like that. So one positive I do want to take from that is that. And I wish that we had more players like that had that type of positional awareness and generally better off the ball movement.
Yeah, I agree. What more to say about today's game, man? It just feels like we're a bit of a broken record, really, this season. We've said it so many times before, but I want to bring up another interesting comment of the many that we have here. Nicolas, I think it's welcome, Nicolas. Not sure if you've been on the show before. Nicolas says, we all talk about how bad our transfers were this season, but in my opinion, the problem is clearly on the coach's plan. It's like he has nothing to give anymore. And for all the great things that Martins has done at this club, there are definitely moments during this season, even today, when I'm just thinking, like, what is his plan? Because I don't understand it. Like, because you can say all the things that, you know, the excuses that we've heard this season about the team being tired because the team hasn't rested for 3 seasons and COVID and da-da-da-da-da-da. But honestly, let's take an example from today's game. Who are the 2 best players on our team today, performance-wise, in the first half? Who were the 2 threatening players from our team besides Cisse?
So besides Cisse, so I mean, I would have to say Carvalho for the balls that he played into Masouras that were messed up. And if not for the bad end product, you could say Gary, but he couldn't cross. He was like Oleg crossing today. It was awful. Yeah. He would get around a defender, but then when it came to the final ball in, it was awful. But yeah,
he gave something. He's like, you know, some excitement. So he got the ball on the right hand side and he did the defender. Like, he went past him like he wasn't there a couple of times, and he thought, oh great, you know, some energy. And then end product was poor. But then, to Nicolas's point, Aris equalized with a really nice goal, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And what does he do? He takes Carvalho off and he takes Rodriguez off.
Yeah.
The 2 players that are the only ones that are really either creating something or threatening. So you're thinking, okay, let me see what you're trying to do here. You're bringing Tiquinho on and you're playing with 2 forwards and you're bringing Valbuena on. What does that mean? Set piece and hopefully somebody scores with his head. That's all. That's what I thought. And that's the plan. And Aguibu's on the pitch and Valbuena's on the pitch, and neither of them are really sticking to any position. Just, you know, guys, just find the ball and try and do something. That's what it felt like. And that's what it's felt like. You know, he used to do that when he'd bring Hassan on. But you knew that Hassan's going to come on, and Hassan, he's that type of player. And you had a team. Like, there was a team last season. But this year, it's just, I don't know what it is anymore. It's ever more difficult to watch.
It is. It's not as easy to discern what the actual game plan is. And we've discussed that before. Look, even with the formation that we've all preferred, right? 4-2-3-1 was something we've all said this is what we have to just roll with and stick with, right? It's also such a huge difference because like you could tell what the game plan was. We in the first 2 seasons, right? The game plan was we help create space in the final third with our extensive and aggressive overlapping fullbacks. In the first season, of course, we were using Fortunis as the engine in the offensive third to get things moving. And we had a game plan. Season 2 was even more so that way. But then the third season, things changed. It was a little bit different, less overlaps, but we were forcing things up through the middle. This season, you can't tell what's going on. We have a line of people in the final third sitting in a line, no movement off the ball. It's kickball half the time. And I don't even see a concerted effort for us to just cross the ball and get it on heads. That's also part of the problem. There's a fun statistic, guys. We are, when Olympiakos is able to maintain a consistent attacking threat from the width and cross balls into the penalty area, we have 44 wins, 7 draws, and 2 losses. When we are able to get 20 crosses or more. So our win-loss ratio is like almost 6-1. It's crazy.
What's the time frame for that?
During Martins. But of course, this season, if you look at the first 2 seasons and then last season and this season, the number of games where we have that many crosses and that much width on the field, it's double the matches, at least than this season. It's only happened a handful of times this season so far. So it's crazy. I don't really know what to think of it.
Yas Romano, Manos Gate 7, commenting, just before the Atalanta games, I was patient, thinking that Martins is doing whatever he can to handle the lack of physicality, 2 years non-stop playing, etc. No, I'm just sick of that.
It does feel like an excuse at this point, doesn't it? Are we the only team dealing with this?
True.
Are we the only ones dealing with this? Like, I understand that. I'm very understanding of that point because that's a point that's been made by Olympiacos, by some of the administration. And I understand that because they're not wrong. But are we the only team dealing with that?
I think we've talked about this many times on the club, on the show. The club needs to look itself in the mirror and we need to question some of the decision making. I mean, we're having conversations now about renewing Mathieu Valbuena, going to turn 38 years old. We're talking about whether or not we should renew El Arabi. But why are we renewing them? Are we renewing them because they're players that against lesser teams in Greece, they can get you a goal or they can score a penalty 1 out of 2 times? No disrespect to everything that El Arabi's achieved at the club. Like, you have to know when to say, that's it. Like, you were here 3 seasons, you scored 50 plus goals or whatever it is, some massive goals, huge contribution. Know when to end it. And there are some comments in the chat like, get rid of El Arabi and bring in Abubakar Kamara from Aris. I'm not having that conversation, but that's the only logic I can find to renewing Valbuena. He'll score a set piece in a big game and score a free kick like he did against Volos, getting us 3 points. Or El Arabi will come up with the goal. But are they going to do that in Europe? And what's the objective? If the objective is we keep on dreaming, then we're going to just be dreaming all the time if we're re-signing a 38-year-old player and re-signing a player that's on the decline. And I know it's hard to find a good striker that scores 20 plus goals a season like El Arabi has done the last few seasons, but get your scouting together. do something. Because this season, we're 12 points clear or whatever it is, and PAOK is still 0-0 against Bas. I've bet a draw in that game, by the way. And I also bet a draw in the Panathinaikos game. If anybody wants betting tips, like come to my Twitter. I can. I did quite well today, actually. I bet 2-1 Olympiacos, Aris. I didn't know anything. I promise. Anyway, sidetrack. We did. We are 12 points clear this season because the other teams have been so much worse. They've regressed more than we have. The statistics show it in terms of our XG, how many opportunities we've created this season compared to last season, let alone the first 2 seasons of Martins. Depending on what the other clubs do in the summer as well, next season it's not going to be quite that easy. Ajax moving into a new stadium. They just made a signing from Krasnodar, which we'll talk about later. But lots of expectation there. What I'm trying to say is, again, we need to take care what's going on in our club. If we do things properly, we won't have to worry. We won't have to worry. But if it stays like this, and if the logic is let's renew Valbuena and El Arabi and we'll be fine, we're in big trouble.
Right. No, I agree with you, man. 100%. There is another positive besides Carvalho I want to get to. But first I want to touch on, there's a question and then a negative comment here first. First from Lifer828, Manolas is also very bad at most of his plays, very slow reactions. I will say the quality that I think that we kind of hoped, maybe not expected, but we remembered and we hoped for, hasn't really been there since he's arrived. And I know he wasn't in the best of shape when he came. Maybe that's still the case. Maybe he still isn't like in his top form of match fitness. But I don't necessarily think it's because of his slowness and slow reactions that were the cause of some of those those dangerous opportunities against us today. If you guys remembered, there were 3 or 4 of them. And there was one thing that was consistent with all 4 of those incidences. And that was that there was the ball literally split Manola and Kenny Lala, the 2 of them. Kenny was either forward, too far inside. That was the case with all of those. So I do think Manola has played a little bit slower, but I think the issue with some of those really egregious opportunities was a disconnect between him and Kenny Lala. Costa, you got a nice chart up here today.
Yeah, no, just bringing up the stats of the game, man, because just on the Manolas point, let's see what he's like after preseason. To me, he looks like he's eaten too much pizza. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but like he's put on a lot of size, man.
He does. I was looking at old videos of him in Y Scout actually, because I thought he looked a little heavier. And if you look at him when he first was here, I mean he does look a little bit different. It's a lot. It's noticeable.
I'm sure there's muscle, but it just. I think that his body's not in shape, and let's see what he can do during the summer. But you saw it on the equalizer, Ari.
Yeah,
he was playing him on the side, and he tried to recover, but he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. And the other thing I wanted to just bring up using this chart is 4 shots on target, Ari.
Yeah.
Vachlik had a couple of good saves today. So again, I mean, I said right at the beginning of the show that it could have gone either way today. And I think Thomas Vachlik deserves a shout out as well today because he made a couple of big saves.
He does. And there's one question here I wanted to get to before I go into my other positive. It's not Vachlik, although I'm happy you brought him up because I thought he had a decent game today as well. And I thought this was an interesting question from Alexander Katopis. How much responsibility does Marinaki have with this team's development? He needs to put in the money to make our dreams a reality. If you're not already aware, guys, because of our exit from Champions League and various other, I should say, lack of income because we haven't had full stadiums all season, he already did a share capital increase of 10 million euros this season to keep the team afloat. So he has dumped money into this team already because we have losses. We haven't had full stadiums. I mean, most of the season, it's been what, 20%, 10%, 25%. We're not making, we've been in the red for basically 2 years. And it's not just us. All teams have been dealing with it. But he has put in some money for this team. And don't forget, guys, we have the largest wage budget that we have had under the Marinakis era, period. So we are paying the most for player salaries that we've ever paid. I don't know if that makes this season sound even worse or whatever you make of that, but that's the reality. But just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that he has invested money to keep things afloat. But my positive, Costa, you already brought it up earlier. You teased us that he was going to be not just your man of the match, but your MVP of the year. But Pape Cisse. And the reason I want to bring this back up again, he saves the day again, not just because of the goal he scored, but he drew the penalty also. Both of our goal involvements today came from Cisse, saving us again. My question to you is, because I really think that he's gone, I think he's getting sold this summer. I don't see how we hold on to him. He's, if I'm not mistaken, he's also maybe changed agents too. An indication that he also wants to move.
I think you're right.
Yeah, or at the very least, he was disgruntled. But I'm pretty sure we were seeing that he changed agents. What do we do when he goes? Are you confident with what we now have at the center backs? Manolas Socrates hasn't looked the most stable, at least in the European stage. And Ba hasn't looked very good either. Markovic is clearly not in the plans.
Martins doesn't know who Markovic is. He never liked him. I know this. I know this. Not, I won't say from the inside, but I know from a very reliable source that Martins just doesn't like him. And actually, on this topic, I did ask this person the question, that we've been talking about, which is, did he refuse to play for the B team, and is that why he's in the doghouse and why he's never in any squads? That we don't know. But what we do know is that Martins just doesn't like him, doesn't think he's ready. He thinks he's too green, which I think is bollocks.
Yeah.
I
believe the word was he never rated him, right?
Yeah.
From the get-go. And so if that's the case, I think it's more of a mold issue. He doesn't like that mold maybe he just doesn't like that mold. Maybe Semedo was, that ball-playing center back mold was Semedo was just a great player and was an exception to the rule. Who knows? But yeah, that's the case. But my biggest concern right now is I don't think we're keeping Cisse. I think he is going to go somewhere. Like, you have to think, like, we have to sell. We're going to have to sell this summer to fund transfers, right? We're going to have to sell people. Who are you going to get money for right now? Madi? No. Agibu maybe
not more than 4 or 5 million.
And you have to heavily market on the first half of the season, because the second half of the season hasn't been good. So you're gonna have to really focus on that. Who else is there that you could try and get money out of?
No, you asked a really good question earlier, Ari, and I want to come back to it. If Cisse leaves, which I think he will, he deserves a move. Are we confident with Manolas and Socrates?
No.
I asked the question as well. There are some polls going. on the YouTube channel. One of the polls right now is on El Arabi and Valbuena. Should they renew, or should they be renewed? Are people confident? Are people confident going into next season with Socrates and Manolas as our centre back pairing? I tell you what, if Manolas is the Manolas that we know and love, then maybe. But losing Cisse is going to be hard, man.
Yeah.
I said it. He's been our MVP this season. How many times has he got us out of jail? Seriously.
Yeah. Look, man, I agree with you. I'm willing to give Manola, just like with some other players, because he came in the winter. You know what I mean? We've seen some players that came in the winter, they weren't so good. They had a preseason and they looked better in the following season. I'm willing to give Manola a full preseason and see how he does. But Socrates, I'm really worried about Socrates. I'm worried that we're seeing him kind of in his twilight. And I don't know how much more we're going to get out of him. And that's my concern, because I see a lot of, unless Ba somehow wakes the hell up and realizes he needs to bust his ass, I don't see how anything's going to change, because I don't see Ba changing. Ba apparently has thought that he's been ready for the Premier League for a couple years now. So
we've got Kunde in the B team, man. Don't worry.
Stop. What about whatever, maybe it would be nice to see an academy product make his way up. I haven't kept tabs on him, but what happened to Olympiakos? I know he's had a couple of games with the B team, but we haven't heard much about him.
Played on and off. I think the most frequent player has been Bagaglianis at centre back, but I don't know. This is what annoys me about the B team as well. Sometimes they announce the starting 11s and sometimes they don't. Yeah. And the game that we lost 4-0 to Olympiacos, they didn't announce it. So I have no idea who played at the back for that game that we lost 4-0.
Right.
But Galogeropoulos has played on and off, like a couple of games, like when Kunde was injured, and then they brought in another centre back, a left-footed one whose name I can't remember. Laggy, what are you saying now? Why do you think a 30-year-old player, Manolas, would leave Campeonato to come to Olympiacos? Only explanation, no ambition. Yeah, you can say the same about Yorgatos. Why did he leave? Why did he leave Inter and Christian Vieri, one of the best strikers in Europe at the time? He was begging him to stay, begging him to go back, sharing a room with the Ronaldo. Why did he leave? Maybe I don't know if it's an ambition thing or just lifestyle, and I don't know, man. Different things are happy with different things, like.
Yeah. And Kalogeropoulos did not play again in the 4-0 loss that we had. It was Koutsidis and Bagaglianis. They were the ones that played.
Koutsidis is the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious what we'll see, who we're going to see brought up at the very least over the summer, and who we bring in, because we're definitely going to need to bring in a player or two. The way I see it.
All right, it's going to be another one of those summers, man. It's going to be
it's going to be crazy.
Olympiacos is going to sign 10 players.
10? I don't think
easily going to sign 10 players easily.
How many are going to leave? That's another thing. I don't think it's going to be like that first season. I don't think it's going to be 44 people out of the club.
But you know, how many did we sign 10 players last season?
Yeah.
It's kind of standard every summer. When's the last time we kind of really made targeted transfers? To be fair, the second season. Yes. Like when we added hang on. The second season is when we brought in El Arabi.
That's exactly when El Arabi came in. Yep.
Yeah. And Semedo.
Semedo came in that season too. That's correct.
Yeah. That was a really targeted summer. So all right. We literally, for me, played the best, expansive football that first season, and then said, okay, we're missing a good striker. Bring El Arabi in. Thank God Marcus Berg didn't come. Bring in a centre back, Ruben Semedo. Okay, first season great. Then we know how that went, but that's all we needed to do. We didn't sell any players, but now the squad needs a rebuild.
Yeah,
it needs a rebuild in the summer. Somebody mentioned earlier Kunde. Like, how bad is Kunde? Is he that bad that he doesn't deserve a chance over what we see today as Madi Camara? Like,
and that's the thing. Because we've
not
had
even on the bench. Not even on the bench.
Yeah, not even on the bench. And we've had a few comments on Kunde already, asking about him. The latest one coming from Platon Papas. What happened to Kunde? By the way, he's not getting any time. Guys, if you remember, so in the first half of the season, he was never a starter. He was always usually coming off the bench, providing some great impetus and pressure on our press. Very helpful with that. But then he got COVID. And since then, we haven't heard from him. The times we have seen him on the pitch, he looks like he's gained a lot of muscle mass. I don't think he looks fat. But I remember in the game he came on as a sub, his legs looked like tree trunks, way bigger than I remember when he first came into the team. He looked slow as well. We don't have a lot of information on this, but my suspicion is that he didn't do too well with COVID. And then don't forget, guys, he went down. He didn't play a lot for Cup of Africa. I think he got injured down there as well. And I don't think Martins actually trusts him too much. Just to be honest with you, I think he's going to be gone over the summer. That's my belief.
It felt like the last straw with Kunde, or the last time he started a game. Anyone can correct me if you think I'm wrong. I think the last time he started a game was against Olympiacos, when we lost, 3-2 in that first leg of the cup.
Yep.
And he played in a completely makeshift team with Sorlis in the midfield, somebody he's never played with before. Yeah, I know it's against Olympiacos, and he's a player that we signed from a better league, and you expect more, but it's not like that, man.
Yeah.
That's not a way to, put a player into a team, like mold them into a team. And it goes back to what we're saying. It's not a team. There's no style. There's no, what's the instruction? Like, what's the way that we want to play? Like, what are we trying to see here? What's your idea for this team, Pedro Martins? I'm trying to understand, but.
Yeah. From Ahura Mazda here, I remember in one game, we're talking about Kunde, that is, gave me Guilherme vibes. I don't know, I might be extreme, but that's how I felt. When he came in as a sub, sometimes when he would get the ball and just like start moving forward with the ball, I could see that. But otherwise, he doesn't have that. I mean, Guilherme was just like all purpose, man. He could literally do everything. We were so lucky to have him. But I see where I think I see what you're talking about, if that's what you're referencing. But we're coming on about almost 45 minutes, guys, and we still have to do the special transfer segment. So, Costa, let's get into it, buddy. Man of the match and coach's grade. Go ahead. Or do you want me to go first? If you're shy,
you go first. Everyone knows what I'm going to say already.
All right. So, man of the match, I'm with you, man. Cisse. With what we saw today, I don't see how anybody else comes close. So, Pape Abou Cisse, man of the match. Coach's grade. All things considered, I was okay with the starting lineup and how we set up. I wasn't expecting to see Kitsos. I wasn't expecting much else. But some of the changes, I didn't agree with, like taking off Masuras at halftime and bringing on Agibu Kamara. You know what? Masuras the end product wasn't there, but he was making the runs and he was getting in open spaces, and that's over half the battle right there. And it was more than we saw from anyone else. I didn't like that change. And then when the changes came out, it's just it just created more confusion and less purpose, in my opinion. So we get the win, and that counts for something at the very least. even maybe if the changes didn't have much to do with it. So I'll give Martins a C.
Okay. Well, I already said who my man of the match was, and yeah, surprise, surprise, Cabella Is VERY, aka the Lion King from Senegal. Anybody who hasn't watched the Atalanta vlog that I did in Italy, I met some of his friends that had traveled from Senegal with him and came to the game. I met them at halftime. Epic. Go and watch the vlog. Check those guys out. Big up Senegal. Big up Pape Cisse, my MVP for the season. Coach's grades. I agree with everything you said, more or less, Ari. More, actually. So I was bemused at the changes I mentioned earlier. I thought him bringing Rodriguez and Carvalho off was so, okay, you don't want to play football. You just want to steal this with a set piece or something. So, yeah, he got the result. For me, it's, yeah, sorry, guys, nothing new to say. C for me as well. Like Ari and I both Cisse and both C's for Pedro Martins. Sorry. Anyone else, like, have any ideas? Like, who was your man of the match? What's your coach's grade for Martins? Like, throw it in the comments there. Keep it coming. If you haven't subscribed already, we're about to go and segue into a chat about transfers, what we've been hearing about Remy Cabella, Victor Claesson. Let's get into that. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and the bell below to make sure you don't miss the next update, next episode. More interviews are coming. There was a question about interviews. We're doing what we can, guys. There'll be more interviews coming soon.
And they are coming. We have some stuff lined up, guys. Timing is everything, so we're working on that for you. Working on bring the best content we can for you. Now the special transfer window, boys and girls. I've gotten a few DMs about people asking questions about what that is, because we've talked about Remy Cabella. People were asking about Ike bringing in, if I'm butchering the name, I apologize, Krachowiak from Krasnodar. But there is a special transfer window because of what's going on in the Ukraine. UEFA basically has told players that as of March 10th, as of this past Thursday, any player that did not previously have a deal worked out with their club or hadn't just worked out a new one at the very least, given what's happening, they're considered to just not have contracts and they can go anywhere for free. They're free agents, basically, can go shop around. So this has some implications for us, because we can now basically pillage these markets for players we couldn't have afforded to bring with fees. We can now bring in some players. So this is a very unique opportunity. We have until June 30th, I think, to do so in this manner as free transfers from either one of these leagues. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, and we've already been linked with a couple of players. One is right here on the window in front of you guys, Remy Cabella, and then his teammate Claesson from a Swedish player. So it's brought up some interesting things, and Remy Cabella, Costa has brought up before as a player that would be worth targeting. As if Valbuena moves on, Cabella comes in. He's a little younger. Yeah, it's very interesting timing, because this is another situation that doesn't normally happen. And because of that, we could end up getting a player we otherwise couldn't afford. Now, on Remy Cabella individually, Costa, you've talked about him before. Have at it.
Look, I think he's the perfect Matteo Valbuena replacement. That's what I see in the play. He's 32 years old. He's had some injuries, but his numbers this season look quite good when I had a look recently. And you can if you're on your computer, you can check this as well. I think he's got 7 or 8 assists, 4 or 5 goals this season in 16 games. I think need to check appearances, but He's a very good player, guys. There's no doubt about it. He can play behind the striker. He can play on either wing, and by that I really mean he's one of those players that can play in any of the positions behind the striker. So I would like to see him come in. Read some of the comments here. Lucky says we have enough players on the decline. We don't need Cabellas nor Clysons, and. I think CJ from Australia is saying, get Neres, not Cabella. Guys, let's be a little bit realistic here. Do you really think David Neres is going to come and play for Olympiacos?
Not happening.
The only reason he's out in Ukraine or was out there is because he's getting a shit ton of money. Why do players go out there, or why do they go to China? Come on. But we're not going to give Neres 4 or 5 million a season. We're already going to be stretching it, giving Cabella 2 or 2.5 or whatever he wants. And here's your exclusive, guys, because we have heard that Cabella is very, very close to a done deal. Something really has to happen to make this fall through. But we are very, very close to making this signing. That's what we hear from our sources, that this is very, very close. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. He has former teammates at Olympiacos. He played with Jan Envia at Saint-Etienne. He's played with Valbuena, I think, in the national team, and he's Corsican.
Yes.
And guess who else is Corsican? Francois Modesto. Yep. So there are a lot of things going for us with this transfer. I'm going to put I'm putting it down there. Like, I think he's an Olympiacos player next season.
Yeah, and no, you're absolutely right. When it comes this season, he's got 11 goal involvements in 18 matches. Guys, that's pretty good production. And the Russian league isn't a joke. Okay? 11 goal involvements, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, all things considered. He's 32 years old. And Costa's not saying to bring him on, that we're bringing him on and to add to one of the other, as some people have said, retirees. No. What he's saying is if Valbuena moves on, this is a nice replacement for him. So we are still getting younger in that position. There is obviously a concern because he has had some injuries, but it's nice. But at least it's nice to see that what he's doing, that there's production there. He still has that production, and that's good. You do like to see that. So I think that this would be a positive move if we can get him. Like Costa already said, there are other teams that are looking at him, by the way. We know that. There's other teams that are interested in, French teams in particular. But he's one of those players. He's like a Carvalho, guys. You need somebody that has that positional awareness and somebody that's a little bit more technical and can play faster ball than we have. This comment from Lakis Gavalas: with Cabella, Carvalho, Fortunis, it's going to be the slowest midfield since the time Zardas was still active.
He's not that slow, man. Come on.
He's not that slow.
He really is not that slow. Like, he can drop his shoulder and go the other way. But like, I remember him when we played Krasnodar at home, that 4-0 game. He did his ACL in that game in the 15th or the 20th minute. But I don't know if anyone remembers that first 15, 20 minutes. Like, it was all him.
Yeah.
He's a very, very dangerous player. He's very, very good. I do agree with some of the concerns, though. So what do you do in a team when you have three players like Cabella, Carvalho, and Fortunis all in the same team? What do you do with those 3 players? How do you fit them in? You can't. You can't.
Yeah. No, you can't. I mean, somebody's playing wing. Somebody's playing wing at least. So now I don't get why people are saying Clausen is old. Didn't he just turn 30?
I need to check.
I mean, I think it's a little bit over the top. And Clausen's not Clausen's not a bad player, and he's the mold of winger that I would prefer to have. I'm done going for the Onyekuru's. I'm done. What was the other one? Who's the other one that we were linked with? Not Onyekuru, the other one from Turkey.
And
it's killing Nkudu. That's right. I'm done with those guys. Like Clausen is the mold of winger that a lot of people are talking about. Remember the player from Ludogorets?
Despodov.
Despodov, Kirill Despodov. Like these are the mold. This is the mold of winger. The Despodovs, the Zubers, that are better for us. So Clausen has played very well for the Swedish national team. He's a great player, and he's going to be free. Like, guys, this is the operative word here. These guys are free. They are free. We are.
Well,
they ended up winning.
92nd minute.
Penalty? Kurdish penalty?
No, Akpom, 92nd minute stoppage time winner. Anyway, who cares? I lost. I didn't make money off that. I could have got €100. Damn it.
I'm sorry, man. I apologize. Yanis Spinos, I don't get the hype. These players can only sign a contract lasting till summer, right? Like Krchawiak joining Ike, or they can sign a 3-year contract. No, they can sign contracts, guys.
They're free.
They're free.
They're free. Summer, irrespective of the war.
Yes. Now, if they don't sign a contract with another club by June 30th, they are back. Their pre-existing contract applies. They have from now until June 30th to sign a contract with a club. So that's right now how it works. Because of what's going on, it's like a similar situation to how we got Podence, because when an event happens like this and players are worried for their lives or their livelihoods, we should say, UEFA does things like this. Now, obviously, this is a much more awful issue. Podence was a pitch invasion, but that's how these things work. So it's only for this period, and that's why we're looking at these guys. So, guys, I think I understand the concern, but if we're looking at how we're upgrading, if Cabella comes in and Valbuena either becomes an administrator or goes somewhere else, we get younger there. Okay, I know he's still 32, but it's younger than Valbuena. And if we bring in Clausen in and Onyekuru leaves, okay, well, how old's Onyekuru? 26, 27, 28? I'm not sure how old he is.
I can't.
But
I can't with this guy.
There's no way Clausen is more than 30 years old.
He's 30. He was 30. He turned 30 in January.
There you go. So that's like 30 is you're still your prime. So I'm not super worried about that.
Victor Clausen's the kind of player that he's like Omar El Abdelawi. What do I mean by that? He's a 6.5, 7 and above player always. He's always a 7. He always give you a 7.
Yep.
He's tidy. He's a tidy player. He knows what to do on the pitch. Like, he has a footballing brain. Like, he's educated in terms of football. Like, he knows what he's doing on the pitch. And you know, he's free. Again, he's free. So these are two types of players that traditionally Olympiacos get something. We get things from players like that. Where we're still not as good is when we decide to fork out money for a player. Exactly. When's the last time we forked out a good amount of money for a player and it worked out? I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. When was the last time?
Well, Podence technically, right? Because we did have
technically, but that was after we signed.
But that was
yeah. You're right.
Yeah, but I can't. I'm having a really hard time thinking about a player. Also, what is a good amount of money? Like 2 million, 3 million. You know what I mean? Or are we saying like 4 or 5 million and above? You could look at it that way too. But no, you're 100% right. You're 100% right there. And if we're looking at Clausen's his stats for this season, 18 games in the Russian league, 3 goals, 2 assists. So 5 goal involvements in 18 games. That's not awful either. Again, it's better production than we get from most of our wingers. So he's 30 years old. I do see some concerns here. I see a concern here from Nicolas. I'm not saying we shouldn't sign Clausen or Cabella, but we already have experienced players. Tiquinho is 32. El Arabi is 35. And Villa 32. Socrates 33. Manolas 30. Vaclik 32. Maybe we need fresh blood too. 32 for a goalkeeper isn't old. I'm going to tell you guys that. 32 is not old for a goalkeeper. But I understand that. I understand what you're saying, Nico. I get it. But I will say the caveat here is that unless El Arabi is taking a pay cut, he's not staying. I'm going to be pretty sure of that. I feel 100% sure of that only because that's what I would do. I'm not paying him $2 million. He takes a pay cut, I keep him. He's worth it. It's always a value proposition, guys. It always is. I understand you want young people in there. I understand we want younger players. Trust me, we want that too. Costa and I want that too. We have some young players that Costa and I want in this team that we believe are ready for this team.
There's a bigger question here, which is, are the fans ready to accept that we're going to lose some games?
Yeah.
If we want to play young players. Yeah.
And that's another question.
We didn't like Hugo Kuipers, did we? Don't get me started. Just don't get me started.
Yeah. They did a very nice interview with him before the game today on Nova, and they spoke to him. And Kuipers is doing great this season. He's doing great. And he's playing in a better league. Any way you slice it, I'm sorry. The league he's playing in now is a better league than the Greek league. So
with this move, I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed at the way that turned out. But anyway, this is an interesting comment. Ahura Mazda, do you believe that we need some Giovanni level transfers in order to do something in Europe?
We didn't do anything in Europe with Giovanni.
Those times are gone, man. The times when we spent 10 million euro equivalent for Zahovic and Giovanni, that's over, man. That's over.
With Diogo? Diogo, we spent 10
Diogo
million.
had a really good first season, man. I mean, and I've talked about that before. It's like the club mismanaged him.
Yep.
And then we saw the results, with what happened. And anyway, I just want to give this guy a shout out. Kalispera την Ερυθρόλευκη Βοστόνη, Davos7. What's up, my friends? Haven't seen you before. Welcome. Everybody else on the chat, drop us, where are you writing from? Even if you're in Greece, what part of Greece? Just drop us a comment. I'm just curious, where are people listening from?
I do love that. Boston, nearby, Northeast. You're a few hours away from me, but I love it. Look, realistically, you brought this up before. Right now, we're a conference league team. As much as I want to believe we can do something in Europe, in Europa League even, we're a conference league team. There is a path. There is a pathway for us to get there. There is a pathway for us to go so that we can do something in Europe. It's not going to be immediate. It hasn't been immediate. We've made the start to do it too. And that involves developing our own talent. That involves us finding these players, whether it's from other leagues, diamonds in the rough like we've been doing so far with Fadiga, with Agibu. Players like that. Dabo.
We'll see them.
That's what we have to do. We have to develop and then sell. That's the only way, our only path forward. That's the only way we can do it and be sustainable while doing it. If the club can find a strategy to manage that correctly so that we are developing, selling, but maintaining our structure and philosophy, then we might be able to do something. I'm not saying we're going to do it. I'm not saying we can do it. I'm not saying we have done it yet. It's going to take a while. And we might never do it. I mean, there's fans that we have in here that come into the audience that are older than Costa and I. A couple of them are more than double our age. They've never seen it. So that it is what it is. But we have to, this is what has to be done for us to have that chance to be able to do that. And the club has made steps to do that, at least more so than it did in the past. I think there's hope. Personally. Ghost, I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, we're coming up to just over an hour on the pod, and I wonder if I should bring this question up, the nuclear question. I shouldn't be joking about those kinds of things, especially the times that we're living in now. Manos Gate 7 asks, or rather, here's the comment. Labros was sick of Martins and wanted him to leave like yesterday. Do you support him staying here or prefer the same? As in, do we? Yeah.
Oh, we're getting into this, getting ready to wrap up, and this is the question we have, Costa. Okay.
All right. So this is the last one. Yeah, we both agree. Like, okay, this is the last one. You can't really answer that question because it's so complex. But I'll tell you one thing. If somebody tells me tomorrow that Ernesto Valverde is in Athens and he has a pen to paper and he's ready to sign a contract to stay for 3 years, then yeah, see you later, Martins.
I'm there. I agree with that. I agree with that. I will say in particular, I don't necessarily agree with Lambro, but I'm also indifferent. I'm a little bit more indifferent, to be honest with you. And I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I am indifferent because for a couple of reasons. First, I worry that it'll get worse before it gets better if Martins leaves. Does that make sense? That unless it's Valverde or somebody else, I worry that we'll bring in somebody. It does get worse. And then we're sitting here like, what the hell did we do? That's part of my worry. 2, I think that because of the situation with COVID and then this season, Martins doubled down on some things that were it was the wrong play. It was the wrong gamble, we'll say, certain players, certain schemes. I deeply hope, and I believe that after this season, Martins will have learned that lesson. And I think this summer, I see him doing the right thing because he has done the right thing. We know that he's capable of doing it. So maybe it's more hope and less logic, but I hope and I really do believe that Martins can fix things this summer if he brings in the right players. Now, if he goes another summer and brings in the wrong players and it's absolutely fucked again, that's it. You had your chance. I still believe he has garnered enough goodwill with the club that I could see him staying, and it wouldn't upset me. But again, if he leaves, I'm not going to be upset either. That's where I stand with it. I'm indifferent. I'm happy to say thank you for the memories, go and do something else. But at the same time, I'm not going to be upset if he goes or stays. That's my view.
Yeah, it's interesting you say, is he going to learn from his lessons? And is he going to bring in the right people? I'm just thinking about recruitment under Martins. And I was thinking that today. It's like, if the kind of players he's going to bring in are Oleg's, Pepe's, forgot about Pepe, haven't we? He's going to be back. He's going to be back in the summer. Actually, I wouldn't mind to see him. I don't know. Like, he's done all right for Famalicão in Portugal. His stats look quite decent this season
for a holding midfielder. Yeah, it's not bad. But it was the same last season too. Before last season, it was the same thing. I even did a blog about it. Yeah. He looks good in Portugal. It's just when he comes here, are we able to make a role for him that he can be successful in? And so far, the answer has been no.
But it's kind of similar with, I'm kind of comparing apples and pears. But When did Kunde get 5 games? Like a stretch of games?
October,
Never.
I think.
What, he actually got a stretch of games and played?
Not
90
starts. Not starts. No,
Okay.
all substitute appearances.
No, but I mean, play him. Like the chances that Onyekuru got.
Never.
Never. And I'll admit, like Pepe gives me that kind of vibe that he's a bit too soft.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, like ability to pick out a pass, give some creativity. I think he had some of that. But my point was, Martins hasn't been good with recruitment. And I've said this before, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I do worry that without a proper preseason, I mean, a proper rest and a proper preseason, the fact that European games are starting early, I worry what might happen if things don't go according to plan. Champions League.
Yeah.
He gets sacked and then it could go very wrong.
Yep. We'll see, man. Look, we'll see what happens, but whatever happens.
We're getting ahead of
this team. Exactly. There will be a lot more to follow, of course, at that point. We still have time. Playoffs are going to be pretty long, so we've still got some time ahead of us for that, and a lot can happen. A lot can change. That's for sure.
But a lot of really good comments tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in again. There was an interesting comment about, I mean, one of many saying XYZ players, who would you keep, who would you sell, who would you loan? I promise we will do a keep, sell, loan episode when this season is over. I'm sorry, this is provoking me now. Lovera 3.5 million. I don't. The Greek press, they were presenting this as a Lovera, as a Martin signing. I don't believe that for a second, guys.
Yeah. See, and that's another thing we didn't touch on. A lot of these moves that we see, we're assuming are Martin's choices, when some things we've heard have maybe lent you to believe otherwise. Who knows? But
anyway,
we'll see. We will see. Thank you, everybody. Guys, it's been a long 1 hour and 12 minutes. Thank you all that stuck around and continue to hang out and engage with us. If you haven't done so, subscribe, join the mission, help us connect even more Olympiacos fans. Let's get this community huge, because that's what Olympiacos deserves. And watch the space, guys. We already brought up, there are so many things coming out. Docu-series we're going to be doing with Olympiacos DC. I hope you guys like that. That should be fun. We have the Olympiacos DC semifinals in the Stewart Cup. Huge. They're doing huge things stateside, trying to get them in better and better competitions representing Olympiacos here in the States. So keep an eye on this space, guys. As always, more fun things coming, and we will continue to have those fun things coming as well.
Can I just read this comment before we close? Manos, thank you very much, my friend. It's our pleasure to have another honest conversation about our team's condition with you guys. It says Manos, stay safe, Zito Olympiacos. Mano, we promise you, and everyone here will always give our honest opinions. Like, this show and everything that we do is always about by the fans, for the fans. We, the 4 of us, all have our own opinions, our own different perspectives. We'd always share those honestly, and that's what we're here to do with all of you guys. So thanks so much for the encouragement. And yeah, Ari, we're good.
See you guys next time.
See you next time, guys.
Ocupa, gente, vai me pagar, já se trago